Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Random Drop. And today, I want to talk about Persona 5 The Phantom X. Let's get into it. So Persona 5 The Phantom X. As a huge Persona 3 fan, Persona 4, Persona 5, I love the series. Naturally, when the trailer for this game was released, I immediately paid attention. I don't really play gacha games anymore, but the idea of a gacha game in the Persona series seems like it could probably work, as I kind of thought the whole schedule structure would probably actually complement well with the gacha system and how personas work and how characters work. So I was immediately interested as long as the world and the characters seemed cool. And from what I could tell from the trailers, it seemed like an alternate universe Persona 5. The character design seemed for the most part on point, and it still had that style that I enjoyed from that game. So it was initially released in China, like 1 or 2 years ago at this point, maybe more. I don't know what time is anymore, but you get my point. There's been quite a journey of this game being released, then finally coming out in the US, which was about a couple days ago. In between, I haven't really looked up to see what the consensus on this game was at all. I am going in completely blind, and these impressions are just completely my own. So in this video, I'm going to separate it into two sections: the positives, the things I like and I think work well with this game and kind of kept me going, and then the negatives, the things that just kind of bothered me, off-put me, or I just wasn't jiving with. And then I'm going to condense it all into my final thoughts and let you know exactly how I feel about this game. This review is mainly going to focus on the beginning of the game all the way up to the end of the first palace, which is, I don't know, like 20 plus hours at this point. But it's a good representation of how this game is formatted and how it's going to move on in the future, as trying to complete a story in a gacha style game is an investment, as there is just straight up stamina restraints, time restraints, and sometimes the content isn't even out for the next part of the story in a lot of these games. So let's get into my review of Persona 5 The Phantom X.
Hey everyone, this is Adrian from my channel Random Drop. If you like our content, make sure to subscribe. We're more than halfway to 1,000 subscribers. From there, this channel's quality and content can grow quite significantly, and I hope that you stick around. But anyway, let's get back to the video.
So the first thing I do like is that I do think the schedule system and the social link system does work really well in this gacha stamina format, as the game does give you points to spend to go work a job, hang out with a person, or increase the stat. I believe it gives you 5 points a day, with you capping out like at 20 or 25, something like that. So it is a thing where you could place it down and come back and use all your points. It's not like some gachas where your stamina is capping out more than you can actually play it or put in time into it. It feels like there's a nice breadth of window here. And that stamina system only affects one part of the game, as there's other systems that are like focused on combat. That one is more for like the social link aspect and the stat building aspect. And then you have a separate stamina that is mainly for combat, farming items, and so forth. But all this gives you character level, which is largely going to determine how far you're going to get into the game. So for my time playing it, I can see that this flow actually really works. And if I wasn't a crazy person, it would be a game where I could put down 3 or 4 days after using all my resources and then pick it back up and then go and do all my social links, do all my hangouts, all that stuff, build up my stats. And then whenever it was time to do the palace, do a dungeon, and I have a longer gaming session of 1 or 2 hours, I can do that. My routine, right? The things you would be doing in Persona 5 in between the dungeons. But now instead of a set of calendar days that is limiting your time, as in Persona 5, it is now your personal time limiting it, right? Because you can only do so much a day. But I never found it feeling bad, as even though I would use up all those points, there's so many other systems and things you can interact with. There's chests and side fights you can fight and side challenges. There's plenty of content where you can just, if you just really want to be degenerate and constantly play this game, you really can. You probably would hit a wall at a certain point, but most people probably are never going to hit that freaking wall, quite honestly. And on this journey, you're constantly getting plenty of currency, so you can build up a pretty good set of personas and at least unlock 1 or 2 characters. As in this gacha, there's not like this large stable of like characters you're missing out on, right? You could probably get a couple, and some you're going to get for free. And the list of actual characters, when you look at it, isn't very long. It's actually like completable and manageable. What I'll say about the character gacha system is that when I get a 4-star, it still feels meaningful and the character still feels unique. As with the 5 stars I got, they are, yes, a bit more powerful, but it never felt like broken or required, as there's really like very few of them so far. And again, there's just like very few characters overall to be unlocking. And as I said before, as I play the game, I've been constantly getting currencies, and there's all these like dailies and side dailies, right? You want your gacha style systems of like and things to grind so you can get more currencies, so like basically free to play the game. You definitely can. I've at least gotten through this like to the first palace, to the first end of this first palace without spending any money, and like really like no real need to spend any real money. Maybe that changes down the line, but this seems extremely free to play friendly, and then you putting down money is just gonna help with convenience. There's so many systems and challenges and weapons and things like that that aren't in the original Persona games, right? Like the weapon system and the dupe systems that add a new level of like min-maxing with the characters, because all party members have unique effects and how they interact with the battlefield, or unique mechanics. Because like in Persona games, the other characters just kind of feel like another Persona the main character would be using. It's just adding to the turn order. While in this game, they very much emphasize the role of the scanner, right? The Navi role, the Teddy role. There's a role there now. There's a character you can slot in there, and they have unique effects and buffs and overall unique effects on the party. And then each party member themselves have their own unique mechanics. For example, there's the ice lady. I forgot her name already, but she's the ice one you can roll for. And her mechanic is when she gets 10 stacks of this certain buff after using attacks, she will unleash another attack. So you can plan around that to like really burst something down. It gives her a very unique role and way to play. So I do really like the fact that there's all these phantom things you can have on your team, and they all really just like have their own unique personality and mechanics and the way they interact in the battlefield. I would say the unique character aspect is probably the best addition they did to the Persona combat style. So yeah, the core of the game actually works. I get the game loop and understand it, and they're giving me enough to where I don't feel extremely restricted, and I still feel like, hey, I can fuse personas and customize my characters, level them up, right? And I don't feel like I'm constantly being told purchase. There's no game mechanic that has made me feel like, hey, you really need to put money into this. It's always just like an extra nice thing if you get to do some rolls or have more stamina items and things like that, right? But it never feels like the gameplay and the core of the game is being restricted. Everything you can purchase feels additive in a way. But even though the gacha part is good, there's aspects of this being a Persona game that I have issue with, and it's a lot of the story front. So let's get into the negatives of Persona 5 The Phantom X. So the first real negative is onboarding. Now we all know when we play a Persona game, it takes a while for that fucking thing to get started in any way. Persona 5 The Phantom X has that same issue, but is exacerbated by the gacha mechanics, as they need to introduce every single role type in the game. Most gacha games, it's like a couple lines of text. They show you the page real quick. But for every role mechanic in Persona 5 The Phantom X, it is a story beat. You go to meet a person and talk to them and have dialogue. And then they show you like the role system. Or here's how to do contracts. Here's how to get more weapons. And so forth. Some of them are completely free, right? Like the Persona system, which they're going to have to introduce anyways to tutorialize. But all these tutorials kind of just being stacked up on each other and having all story, dialogue, and cutscenes and explanations for it all. It's very hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, where you get to that point that we do in Persona games where it's like, oh, I'm finally in the flow of it, doing the Persona thing of social linking, increasing my stats, and diving into the dungeon when I can. Eventually you do get there, but man, there's just a lot of just like not interesting bullshit in between. Next negative is the UI. There's a lot of things in this UI that work really well and feel like they were made by the Persona team. But there's lots of portions in this game where the UI doesn't flow as well, or when you click something or hit a button, there's like a bit of lag in it, especially like with attacks and animations, as they're really smooth in Persona 5. When you cast a spell and you switch personas, they're kind of just like doing it in real time and doing it very quick. The pacing is a lot different in this game. The animations are a bit more animated, right? There's a lot more flair to them, but you do lose that smoothness of combat that was in Persona 5. And even just navigating the battle menus and all that just feels clunky, as it was designed for a mobile game. So playing it on controller or on a Steam Deck, just there's a lot of awkward times where you're just like, oh, fuck it, let me just click the screen, because like the UI was never initially designed to be played on with the controller. There's like UI elements will light up when they're not supposed to, and it's just all sorts of confusing and not really well done. Not to the quality that you expect of a Persona game, as Persona games and Atlus in general have had some of the most incredible UIs made in the industry. And I understand that's probably a large ask for a mobile game, but you're putting the Persona 5 name on it, the Persona name on it. That's what we expect. It needs to just be smooth and flow. And a lot of it does work, but I would say like 70%. Right, and then there's just like those good chunks of just like, I really just don't like how this feels. And this game is mostly menus, so it sucks when it doesn't feel right. It's not a game killer, but it definitely just adds to that feeling of like, this is Temu Persona. This is not 100% a Persona game. The mobile aspects of it are showing, and this is one of them. My next complaint is like the story. Initially, when I saw the trailers of the game, I was really interested in like the character designs and all the other Phantom Thieves. It's like they didn't miss. Like I think all those characters look really cool, and the personas are real cool. I really like Motoho. Is that her name? Like your first party member. She just gives off Chie vibes, and I was all about it. Everything that isn't the main story I've enjoyed. Talking to like extra social links or extra NPCs, doing side quests, just going around Japan and just interacting with that world. It still feels good, and I like the social link parts of this game. They're still really good at that. But the main setup for the game just isn't interesting. And it's not to the point where when all the things happen with Kamoshida in Persona 5, you as the player and the characters are ready to go, right? As you're tired of seeing all the injustice and bullshit headed to your friend's way and your way because of him. So you're ready to become superheroes. In this one, not so much, as the first main villain is kind of a joke. So the first villain in Persona 5 The Phantom X feels like a side quest villain. He feels like something you would have solved in a Mementos dungeon in the original Persona 5, but now expanded to this whole thing. He's called the Subway Slammer. He basically assaults women in the subway, but by assault he like shoves them and like knocks them over because he just like wants to abuse women, but that's like about it. But from what I've read, there is a lot of people who like use the subway to like assault people and hurt people, sexually harass people, right? It's like bad. It's like a serious issue in Japan and in that culture, but the way it's framed in Persona 5 The Phantom X is fucking stupid. They just like don't nail the subject matter at all and make him feel like this weird kooky villain and shit, where like he disappears when the crowd walks by and shit like that. It's like, oh no, it's the slammer. It's really fucking dumb for how like serious like the subject matter is. Because it's the whole idea is that this guy is a menace, right? He runs around and like just fucking ruins people's day. And by doing that and making the world feel a bit more shitty because there's people out there doing something like that, it's taking away hope and the desires from other people. It's making people around the area more apathetic because of the shitty things he's doing. That's kind of like the premise of this game. There's these menaces that do bad shit, and it has a ripple effect on the people in Tokyo, basically. And I feel like that premise can work, but again, just like the fucking Subway Slammer guy and how he's framed and people talk about him and all the cutscenes and interactions are just really dumb. There's a ton of memes in the Persona community now on Twitter with this fucking guy, and it's really funny because it's such a ridiculous, dumb premise. Some people are saying, hey, the other palaces are better, and I hope to God, because this one isn't it. To where it affects how much I like Motoho, because like her whole story arc is kind of tied to this, and I like her and her friend and whatnot, but I'm just not into the premise of like her feeling bad about this character. And it's supposed to be a story about like don't meet your heroes, but how it's all interconnected and woven just doesn't feel to the quality of what we've seen in Persona games previously, as I think all these puzzle pieces can work and like form a like good story and like a good hook. But I think how the game does it to where it feels like when we're going to this palace, I as a player have no real motivation because I kind of just don't care. I think this guy's an asshole and he should be stopped. But the idea that we have to go like into his palace and like steal the desires and shit, it's like, nah, man, we could probably get a camera and follow him or something, right? There's like the reason the Phantom Thieves take matters into their hands in Persona 5 is because literally society and that guy is in power. He is in power of the whole school because of who he is. So he has complete and utter control. He has control of the messaging. He has leverage on people. There's not much anyone can really do, to the point where he does something so vile that the characters in Persona 5 take matters into their own hands. And it just never really gets to that level with the first palace villain. There are things that like make you think like, oh, one day he could possibly get to that level. But again, just like motivations aren't aligned. And it kind of feels like, why are we doing this? For me personally, I really hope that the next palaces are better. I'm going to at least give the next palace a shot. I'm going to finish off this one, and hopefully the next section of the game is a lot better and interesting, as there are mysteries in the background that just haven't been answered yet on like, wait, why are these characters in the same world as the Persona 5 characters, but the Persona 5 characters don't exist, and the characters having like weird like digital cuts and things like that to where like his memories are getting moved around and whatnot. So there's like an intrigue in the background that I hope pays off, or I hope keeps interesting. As for this being a Persona game, the gacha system doesn't really add anything, right? The gacha system fits and works, but like, what am I getting much more out of this other than just not paying $60? Not really. The reason I give this game a pass is because I want more of these characters and character designs and stories. And I want more of it, right? I love Persona, but the like actual gacha part of this game doesn't add anything. So what's carrying this game is the story, the mystery, the personas, the combat. And if one of those pillars isn't working, like I could just go play Shin Megami Tensei 5 and get like some of that combat or something, right? Or Raido, because I should probably be playing those games, but instead I'm playing this fucking game. It just feels like a cheaper imitation of the original thing, and that's my problem with it, right? I am like liking with it, and I want to give it more of a chance, but there are other Atlus games I haven't played yet, and with the story just not being great off the rip, it makes me like not want to continue. At the end of the day is, hey, this like all kind of works, and like in terms of being free, works really well as well. If you want to put money into it, it's fine. But hey, there's a Persona spin-off game that it's going to be fed to you over time if you invest into it. And all that works great. But really, if you're playing this, you're probably really starved for Persona content, turn-based content, Atlus content in general. You've probably played everything. It feels like a cheaper imitation of a thing you already love. It's a very good imitation of it, but it's all going to depend on you personally if you want to invest the time into it, as you do have to invest time over weeks, right? Rather than us knocking out an RPG 2 to 3 weeks for 100 hours, but then we're done with it. This thing is just going to go for a long time and eat up increments of your time. But that's how I feel about it. Let me know how you feel down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Random Drop review. Peace.